All right, welcome to part two, class one, landscape painting from beginning to end. This is the part of class where we are going to be learning a little bit about how we go about selecting the images and doing some of the cropping and design. So we're going to work on something together, but first I'm going to do, again, we're going to do the share screen. I'm going to pop back over to our Padlet, and I'm going to bring up the page. I think I put it at the top, hopefully. Yep. All right, everybody sees Padlet and this Michael Orwick's personal steps to building successful foundation in painting. So this class and the whole kind of curriculum that we're going to be slightly using is based on an experience I had a while back. I show in about 8 galleries now. Well, actually 7. I just dropped out of one. And one of the galleries called me kind of last minute and said, hey, one of the 2 artists for a show is unable to do it. Can you fill in? And I had approximately 2 weeks to fill an entire wall with new artwork. And being the crazy person that I am, I said, yes, of course I can do that. And so I decided, it's just a matter of filling square footage. So it could have been like 15 small paintings or a couple bigs and a couple smalls. And I realized if I do like 3 big paintings and 3 small paintings, I'll easily fill the space. You guys hearing me okay? I've got my AC on up here, so it's kind of loud. So anyways, I said yes. And I just literally grabbed 3 big 30 by 40 canvases and attacked them and painted and painted and painted. That was on a Monday. And that Friday, I had covered all the canvases, got them well and started, only to finally just kind of step back, take a breath, and realize that they were all crap. They were bad paintings. And I was devastated. You have 2 weeks or whatever, I guess 3 weeks really, but I wanted the paintings to be dry, or at least drying. And I had a freak out, and I had a real come to, whatever you want to say, come to reality moment of my ego had definitely gotten in the way of my brains. And I stepped back and I was just like, so why are these paintings not working? And it came down to just the design. None of the design was good. I hadn't thought about it. I had just attacked it. And, I've been lucky a number of times doing that, where I just get excited and I just dive into the painting. Maybe it's based on a great photo, or maybe, Cheryl, I'm out plein air painting and I just see something that's so exciting and I don't think enough. I'm, that hippie side of my brain just takes over and just like, don't worry, it's going to work out great. And the business side of my brain just shuts down. And it really, really, really hurt. On Friday nights is our family movie night. And I went downstairs to go, have dinner and watch movies. And my wife and daughter both just looked at me and it was like, what is the matter? What's happened? I was like, I've wasted a complete week of painting time, and I've basically got to scrape in fact, I did scrape the paintings down before coming down, and I didn't sleep that night. It was painful, not only that I wasted that much time and that I had expectations and everything, but it was hurtful in that I just let whatever that was get in the way. So not sleeping, I basically woke up at about 4 or 5 the next morning, went to my dining room table and just started writing a kind of a manifesto to myself of how do I stop that? How do I not let that happen again? That evolved into what I'm going to share here with you. And so I would be curious what your thoughts are on it. And again, you guys are more than welcome to use this, edit it, change, make it your own. But these are the steps, when I follow them, that my paintings are the most successful. And a lot of this harks back to my illustration days, right? Because you just don't jump into an illustration when you're working with authors or businesses and everything else. And a lot of this works with my commissions as well. right? Because you got to make sure that the client is getting what they want and that you're, matching their couch, or, all the different things. You're getting in the information and the mood, the feeling, all of the things that you want to share. So I'm just going to quickly read through this, and so that's just a little bit of background about this. I refer to it often. It's just kind of a little bit of a reminder. And every time I see this darn piece of paper here, I can almost feel that pain again. And I don't want to feel it. So this helps me. So Michael Orwick's personal steps to building a successful foundation and painting. 1, collect. And that's what we're going to do now today, here in the beginning. Gather references for subject, design, and colors, mood, and theme. This is often multiple influences or as many as needed that help me to clarify my plan for my work. What excites me about this idea? What am I hoping to convey? What feeling am I hoping to elicit from the audience? Sometimes it's really great for me to just literally jump from the very, very beginning to the very, very end. In fact, when I'm thinking of a show, I literally will try to picture what the viewers are saying and talking to each other about while looking at my paintings. So I jump way to the end and then kind of fill in between. Plan, sketch thumbnails. We're going to do that as well today with paints, pens, or pencils. You use no tan, which just means black and white, or limited values to see and feel the strong underlying design and structure. Edit, 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 and redesign, looking for flow and sexy shapes. I put sexy shapes under quotations because I know a lot of people don't like that terminology, but that's what I learned back in art school. But for me, sexy shapes can just mean shapes that work well together, that have a nice flow, that lead one into the next. Yeah, sexy shapes, just a funny term that I heard back in college and stuck with me. So I apologize to anybody who finds that a little bit not tasteful. But anyways, test. Small scale painting and or color chart, which can be semi-abstract. How do these colors coexist, and do they feed into the desired feeling of the painting? This is also a good chance to see, do they go well with the colors of the couch, right? Start the painting. Properly prepare the desired surface and let it dry. With the underlying value plan and structure, establish light and shadow families. This is the foundation of the painting and the most important part. For those of you who are writing notes, you can add the values do the work, the colors get the credit. Right? There's a whole lot of different iterations on that saying, but I find it very, very useful. I have to remind myself because I'll do most of my work with the values, but nobody ever comes up to me and says, I'm buying your painting because of the values. They always say I'm buying it because of the colors. But without a good underlying value structure, the colors can get you in more trouble than not. Pre-mix colors. Mix large piles of dominant and important, I wrote mother colors. I often will use the term octopus colors as well, or octopusing colors. And I'll talk about that as we move along. To double check harmony and mood. Values do, oh, there we go. Values do most of the heavy lifting, but colors get the credit. I put it in there. Paint. Build up paint thin to thick. Reminder to eventually use lots of paint and let there be physicality and texture to the loaded up brushwork. Don't overmix or blend too much. Those are, again, this is all just notes from me. I just wanted to share it with you. So if you're, don't care about the paint quality or anything else, for me, I tend to paint quite thin, and I'm trying to I'm trying to use more paint and have more texture in my painting, especially as AI art and everything else is kind of, really worming its way into the creative process. It's what can we do to differentiate ourselves from photos? What can we do to separate ourselves from digital work? And a lot of that is the physicality that it is painting. Get away.
Quickly, what is AIR?
AI is artificial intelligence.
Oh, okay, sure, yeah. Okay, thanks.
No worries. Get away. Step back often to see the full picture. If you sit down to paint, please make sure you're standing up or taking lots of breaks. We can really work ourselves into a big mess if we're sitting too closely to our painting. Set it aside or take a break from it for at least 15 minutes to get fresh eyes. This is important, so you can give it an honest, loving critique. One more visit at least. Fix what needs fixing. I underlined it because a lot of times I'm just like, good enough, right? Oh, I got to get this painting to the gallery. Oh, but no, I want my paintings to be good, not good enough. What jumped out of place or is incorrect? Good enough is not good enough. How do we make this great? Make it so good they can't ignore you. That's a quote from, I can't remember the name of the comedian. Anyways, this can also be time to ask for feedback or a critique from others. You trust and respect their opinions and taste. This is where we get to use Padlet. This is where I get to share my work with you and get honest feedback. This is where it's really nice to have a spouse that's not afraid to hurt your feelings a little bit, or a neighbor, or a little group of friends that you can share your images with. Ship. This is, again, for me. You guys may not care about selling paintings or sharing them online or whatever else, but for me that's very important, because without ship I make no money. Ship just means getting it out. Take high quality photos, make a short video of it with a description of my why and or how and what I hope it brings to the viewer. Get it out to the galleries or offer it for sale on the website. Promote. Now, again, this is for me because this is how I make my money. Share. Let the people see what you have made. Ask them to share it. The world needs what you are making. The more beauty in this world, the better off we all are. Start another one. Learn what the painting had to teach and move on. Keep painting. Okay. Whew.
Steve Martin.
Steve Martin, yay. Yeah, he's one of my favorites. I should never forget his name. Love that guy. Yeah, it kind of gives me chills reading it again. It's been a couple weeks, couple months since I've read it. It's so simple. And it's so fundamental and important that it's, again, this is the structure. And this does not mean that I'm a structured painter by any means. It just means that sometimes I'm a structured painter. Sometimes the spontaneity and the fun and the creativity really allows itself to take over. Sometimes I fully just embrace. Sometimes I approach my canvas and just make a couple big brush strokes and see what evolves. But that has little expectation of yielding a result that's going to be sold. That is just me releasing stress. That is just me playing and having fun. I think there's room for all of it. But the structure comes into play when I'm doing a commission, when I'm working for galleries, when I need to make some money, when all of the things, when I have a very firm idea in mind. These are a lot of the steps that I'll do. I don't use all of them. I don't always do little color studies. I don't always do a whole bunch of thumbnails. Sometimes I just do my editing on the computer and that's enough, or on my phone and that's enough. I'm very secure in the design. But if I'm insecure at all, I will step back, take a break. And here again, if you're writing notes, write this down. Painting is fun, fixing is not. Okay. I love painting. It is my favorite thing. Fixing is my least favorite thing in the world almost. And there's paintings where I spend 2 days painting and then 2 months fixing. And so if I can get those fixes done, or those things out of the way so that I'm never fixing or hardly ever fixing, it is so much more fun. It is so much more approachable. People ask, they're trying to figure out, why do my paintings cost what they cost? Oh, how long did that take you? And I'm always hesitant to say, oh, that took a day or two, right? It just flew off the canvas, because I know they're quickly figuring out, oh man, you make a decent wage hourly. But they don't know all the paintings that don't work out. And they don't know the paintings that I spend months wrestling with, trying to figure out, why are you not working? What's happening? Why are you not conveying the mood, the feeling, the emotion? Why is my eye not flowing through you properly? So, I just charge by the inch. All paintings are priced the same. It's not, this one took a month, so it's much more, and this one took hours and it's much less. It's not like that, because those ones that took hours are because of the ones that took months.
Or you could answer that it took you 38 years to paint that one, or however long you've been painting.
Yep. Well, the other thing, I do say that, but I say it very quickly and then quickly, because I know a lot of times when people are asking too, how long did that take you? They're also looking for a in just to start talking to you about your painting. So oftentimes I'll even say that too. Like, my favorite paintings are never the ones that take the longest. Those are wrestling matches. I don't want to wrestle with my painting. So anyways, this is about me not having to wrestle. When I do these things, I've generally got things worked out. A lot of people will be just like, oh, I can't believe you did, 5 different little black and white studies, to figure it out. Oh, I can't believe you're spending 20 minutes to pre-mix your colors. Let's just get to it. This is boring. But it really, really makes a difference. When I get my design, when I get my reference figured out, which might be a combination of 3 or 4 photos, when I get a couple sketches, when I get my value structure, my lights and darks figured out, and then I pre-mix my colors, it is utter joy. And I don't want you guys to think that I've become robotic in that, because what also happens in that is I've gotten a lot of the big things out of the way, right? I've gotten the foundation of the house built. I've got the walls up. Now I get to do the fun stuff. I get to pick the curtains and the carpet and paint the walls, right? That's the part of the house that's fun for us. So by doing these things, the foundational things, and getting them out of the way, we get to the fun stuff. And that means where I can play with my brush stroke, I can, play with the colors, I can change. I'm always open to change. I'm always hoping to be having a dialogue with the painting, always asking, what do you want? What do you need? How can I help you be better? But that is much easier to have that conversation when the big conversation has been answered. So I'm always leaving room open for creativity and the what abouts, the what ifs. By getting this other stuff done, the heavy lifting. Rajani, do you agree?
Yeah, I agree.
I can see you nodding, and it means a lot to me. I love when I look out and people are nodding, not nodding off, but nodding. I appreciate that. So thank you. And anybody have any questions on that? Does anybody see this and go, oh crap, that looks like work? I came here to play and paint. Or does anybody, does everybody see how this could be useful in our art going forward?
Yes.
I find it very, very helpful. And I learned a lot, just like you said, about by pre-mixing the colors, you have the foundations out of the way. And it's like, wow, I'm like, why didn't I think of that 10 years ago? But I didn't. So I think it's excellent. Thank you.
I'm so glad. Yeah. And that's another thing about my classes, you guys, is I'm going to give you guys so many tools so fast every day, all 6 weeks. And some are going to stick and some aren't. And some are for you and some are for Linda, some are for Rajani, some are for Michelle. And so just know that if you take away, like Tamara, if that really works for you, that could be worth, the whole price all of the time. It only takes 2 or 3 or 4 good tools to completely change or make easier or make things more enjoyable for us. So just know that I'll be sharing tons and tons of tools. And you can come back and maybe when you watch the video again in a month or 2 or 3, you'll pick up other tools. But yeah, thank you, Tamara. I appreciate that.
Do you do this with plein air also, or kind of an abbreviated form of this?
Yeah, there's definitely times I jump in, but yeah, when I take a step back, I will usually have a little sketchbook. If you were ever like looking over my shoulder, a lot of the times I do my sketching with my paints. And you'll just see me sketch a little bit, wipe off, sketch a little bit, wipe off. And I will spend a little bit of time and kind of establish my design with my paints. quite thin. And a lot of times I even establish my my value structure, and I'm going to actually give a quick demo of that, I hope, today, of how I approach the painting. So yeah, and then the pre-mixed colors, I might just pre-mix 1 or 2 colors. Like, okay, an overall green. Of course, the trees are different from the grasses, are different from the bushes, but an overall green that kind of ties them all together. Like the trees might have more red and yellow, the bushes more green, and the grasses might be more gold. But I can adjust them. And the cool thing is, by having that big overarching green in there, Leslie, is I can, they will harmonize because they're all going to be related. Or when I pre-mix my sky colors, I might just do an overarching blue that I can add pink and white to create the horizon line, and more yellow and white to create the cloud structure. And again, they're going to harmonize. A lot of times, even when I say a mother color, and this is for the wannabe or the tonalists in this group, a lot of times I pre-mix 1 big color. And then every other color that I mix has that color in it to a varying degree. And I get this overarching tonal harmony that is so lovely. So yeah, great question.
Can I just say something about what you put down for promote? Because I realize, like, I'll share stuff on Facebook, but I don't say this is for sale specifically. And once in a while, someone will say, "Is that for sale?" I mean, actually, that's what people usually say. Is that for sale? And I kind of assume they think, well, if I'm promoting it on Facebook and showing it, they'll know it's for sale. But maybe a person has to. Maybe I have to be more.
Yeah, what I like to put is
Clear.
available.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it just seems a little less, salesy, I guess. And
Yeah.
I write available DM with questions or DM for feedback. What I will do is typically, if it is for sale, I will post it to my my website first, and then I'll just have a link in there, and I will just write for more information, or available for more information. Please go to this link.
Okay, I think I've just been too shy.
Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Yeah, people want to buy your work. So yeah, very good. Whew. All right. So that was a lot. And I appreciate you guys going on that sad story journey with me. Let's pick out a picture. Or actually I have some on, let me see if I pop up Photoshop. This is the most basic version of Photoshop here. This is just called Photoshop Express or something like that. I believe it's free. I don't use it because it's so basic, but I wanted you guys to see it. So this is a picture of right near my home. In fact, just about a half mile away, looking down off some old deserted railroad tracks. I love the light, how it hits these back trees, and then I love the warmth in here. I don't know what that does. I don't know how to get rid of it. But what I want to do is just show you quickly that within this picture, I don't like this design. Anybody want to hazard a guess what's wrong with this for me right away? Michelle.
The horizon line is right in the middle.
Boom. You guys see that? That horizon line is right smack dab through the middle, right? I love the colors. I love a lot of the things going on, but everything is on the left side. That's really interesting for me, right? So I've got to decide. I want that horizon line to either move up or to move down, at least to where this white line is, usually. I like it at least at 33%. And you're going to see that I can quickly move this. I'm going to decide that the foreground, the ground itself, is more interesting than the sky. The sky has beautiful colors, but we don't need it all. All right, so I'm just going to quickly just bring that down right to about there, I think. I've got it set. Oh, at original. So I can go through here. And if I was painting with let's just say it's a 30-inch by 40-inch canvas that I wanted to paint in, that would be a 3x4. And so now it will move in that same proportion. So no matter what I end up editing it down to, it's going to keep within that. Let's decide I want an 8x10, which will be a 4x5. So then it slightly changes it. And now I'm moving that around. Again, I can bring it out and make it, involve more of it. Let's see, what if I wanted to do a really interesting design and make it tall and vertical versus horizontal, right? So I kind of like this idea of these kind of pre-made borders for you. You could get really crazy. And what if it's a 3x1 horizontal, right? How would I find an interesting story within that? Right? It's kind of beautiful, right? So there's so many choices in this. The other really neat thing is, you guys see where these lines cross over each other? That is oftentimes a great place to have a focal point, something interesting, somewhere that the eye wants to go. I can't exactly describe why that is. It just works. A lot of times when my paintings are really or photos or references are really wishy-washy and I can't quite figure out how to get into it, simply by finding the focal point, which in this might be where the water kind of turns here, or maybe something here, I can kind of change it. It makes a big difference. I actually really like this design. I had no idea I would want to think maybe about doing a big, weird horizontal, but that could be a lot of fun. Let's see, can I switch that? It won't let me. We can do a 1x2 though, horizontal. What if I just made it all about the sky almost? I just had this little ground supporting area, right? That could be interesting. What if it's all about the creek? And I edited out there's so many there's so much variety. So let's suppose that I went to the art store and I only buy a couple versus the hundreds of canvases I have laying around my studio. But, I'm new to painting. I went to the art store. I didn't know what I was going to paint, but I picked, let's just say, a 16x20 canvas and a 12x12, right? So a 16x20 is going to be an 8x10, right? 2 times 6, 8 is 16. 2 times 10 is 20. So that would be my size. That would be a horrible painting. So let's edit it and see if we can make it interesting. Kind of liking that a little better, right? Kind of interesting. Maybe I do want a little more sky. I could bring it up. What if I change my mind and I wanted it horizontal, not vertical? Same thing. So does that make sense? So you can use these. So when you're cropping your references, it's imperative that you know what surface you're going to paint on. Because if I all of a sudden design a gorgeous 16x20, but all I have is a 12-inch by 12-inch canvas, right? It's going to be very different. It's going to be squished in there. And I have that all the time where students are just like, man, I got this reference and I'm putting it on this surface and it doesn't work. And I'm just like, well, that's because your reference proportions are different than your painting surface proportions, right? So remember I was talking about possibly a square. Where is it? Do they have a square on here? There's square. So I was thinking maybe a square would be interesting. Squares can be very difficult to design. I'm not always sure why that is, but I love challenging myself with squares a lot. So if I was going to be doing a square, maybe it'd be something like that. Or if I wanted the sky more importantly, maybe something like that. So does that make sense, you guys, about as far as designing? The other thing is I don't have to be stuck with this. I could go, you know what, I'm going to do this painting first, then I'm going to do a horizontal, then I'm going to do a vertical, and it's going to be a series. Yes, Leslie, I saw you raise your hand.
So you use, this is on Photoshop?
This is just Photoshop Elements. I have Photoshop Express.
Is it free?
Yeah, this is the free version.
I use Pixar Editor and it's free on my Mac. But so you can just set the proportion of, you could set the proportion. I didn't know you could do that even, so it's an easy way to set the proportion when you're cropping. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll think.
So yeah, I've never used this software. I've, always just used Photoshop. The thing is that when I changed my computer, I lost my 20-year-old version of Photoshop finally. And then my daughter was going to school, so I just jumped onto her Photoshop, which is crazy what Photoshop does now compared to what it used to do. And I was having a heck of a time learning it. But I did finally learn it, and then she moved, and I've lost my ability to use her Photoshop. So I had a freak out this morning, and I went and paid for it. So actual Photoshop is $20 a month. In the old days, you just paid for a flat fee and had it. Now they charge a subscription fee. Yeah, right now I'm paying for it. So that's basic Photoshop. It doesn't do a lot of the things. So I'm going to jump over to the more extreme Photoshop. But I do want to show you another one. If you want a free software that does a huge amount, for those of you that are on the more tech savvy side, let me see if I can find it really quick where I saved it at. Thought I saved it. Sorry, everything's hiding behind my Zoom on my other monitor. All right, this is called Photopea. I have no idea why they named it that. But it is a free
Photopea?
software. Huh? Photopea? There you go.
Photopea.
Photopea? All right, that sounds way better than Photopea. Photopea, that sounds way better. The free version does have ads on the side, which is annoying. You can get it off. And I've got ad block on, which makes it show even stupider ads. So anyways, but this is a pretty good free version. I have not learned how to use it, but I wanted to offer it up for those of you who I've read a lot of really great reviews of it. Anyways, that's another one we can look into. And then I've got the advanced Photoshop here, which you can see all the different options. The other one was basically offering me this tool here and maybe a little bit of others. This is that picture that I talked about earlier that I'm like, I probably took about 15 or 20 photos while we were out on this location. Not only as the sunset was changing, but zooming into different areas, maybe watching when the waves were exploding against the rocks. But I did take a couple of a big, huge area. And what I like about when I do this is, let's say that I've got that 1 inch let's say it's a 10-inch tall by a 30-inch wide canvas. So very interesting proportion, so I could figure out, I'm looking to the right there. You can see the little numbers. That's going to tell me my proportions. So that's 15. Let's just go here, 16 by a little over 5. So there I set my boundary, and I can move that around now using my arrow key, or I can drag it. So now I can look at it and say, oh, that's kind of interesting, design, or that is. I could also redo it and make it, so it doesn't have so much information in there. I'm sure I need to learn more about, again, this Photoshop is so immense and can do so many things that I have not figured out how to use it properly yet. But I do use this little, I call those the marching ants, those little white lines there that kind of fluctuate around. And then if I find, let's just pretend that I really like this little thing of the marching ants right there. So then I would just go up to image, and I can go crop. Or I should be able to do copy image. Oh, I'm just I'll just do crop. And all of a sudden, there I go. I've got it edited down to that by simply pressing Control V. Nope. Man, Photoshop is so different. I can bring back, that's my little history thing up here. Anyways, I use Photoshop a lot to use things. I've got to learn the new one. It's really got a lot of interesting tools. let's just say, you know what, I don't like this rock here. I can just simply go over here and make a little stamp tool, and let's just get it out of there. So I can do all sorts of interesting editing. I can use that same clone tool in here. Let's just say I don't want these trees to be so congested. I can clear out some space. That's, you know, a very non-technical way of doing it. Let's go back up. So there's lots and lots and lots of different ways I use Photoshop. This is a photo I took out at Savi Island. I'm a big fan of flooded farm fields for some reason. I think I used to catch lots of little frogs in them when I was a kid and love playing on them. But in this photo, I don't really care too much about that flooded field. But what I do like is these trees, these colors. It's got a nice tonalist thing going already. I love the dark trees versus the lighter trees and how it has this nice sense of atmosphere. I love these golden grasses. So let's just, I'm trying to find a quick creek or something, because I don't really care about this big, vast foreground. So I'm just going to grab another picture, and I'm going to say open with Photoshop. And hopefully it's loading. There we go. So I got this other picture of a creek. I'm going to select all, copy, and I'm going to bring it back to this painting, and I'm going to paste it over the top. All right. Now I'm going to make it so that it fits the proportions that I want. I want free transform. Yeah, sorry, you guys are watching a learning curve with me. I want it to free transform, not just go back and forth. But anyways, what I'm going to do is ideally, here I'll be able to do opacity so that I can see through it. And I'm just trying to bring that creek up. Okay. Pump that opacity back up. And I'm going to take my erase tool here in just a second. First, I'm just going to grab that horizon line because I know I don't want it. And then I'm going to grab my magic wand here and get rid of large portions of that. Huh. There we go.
Wow.
Right. And a lot of this is just me brainstorming, just coming up with different ideas of what might be more interesting. I don't even have to literally do it on my Photoshop. I could just combine these two pictures and start drawing them and to see if they work. Right. You know, just by thinking of the design. So very quickly, you have kind of an idea. Let's get a more of an eraser.
Oh, I like that, Michael. That is so beautiful.
Right. And that's just, isn't that more interesting than that? Whereas I did find that beautiful, and it's not for everybody. You guys may go, you know what, I like this better or this better. That is completely, you know, up to you. But what's nice is I get to experiment with it. It's easier to experiment with this, right, in a minute, 2 minutes, than it is for me to experiment on my easel with oil paints, right? And the other thing is at least it has me thinking about it, right? Let's see if I can adjust the colors so it matches the background a little better. So just go image, adjust. I'm going to do color balance, which pops over on this other screen. So I'm just going to warm it up because I know these colors are all nice and warm. So I'm just going to bring in some reds. Look at that. I mean, if you just walked or looked at this really quickly, you'd hardly know that it was just 3 minutes of Photoshop work. It would just look like kind of a weird picture. But so that's just, different ways that I'm experimenting with my images. I will do a lot with tracing paper. I do a lot with, because in the old days when I was doing this back in my illustration days, it was a lot of Xerox machines and cutting and pasting and, oops, I need my Xerox copy a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller. We can also do this, again, simply by just thinking about it and doing sketches, right? You not having Photoshop, you not being technically savvy is not an excuse in this class. People were doing this kind of thing for hundreds of years before even Xerox machines, right? So you can literally, there's a lot of times when I'm out plein air painting where I'll pick trees from one view and then slightly turn another view and take the mountain from that view and then slightly turn and take the creek from that view. And then all I have to do is slightly convert them so that the light is affecting them all in the same way. And that's a big thing when you're combining images, is sometimes you'll have the light coming from the left in your foreground image, the light coming from your right in your top image, and in some other part. So it's really important that we, as we're thinking about it, we decide, where is my light source? Where is it going to be? Because that's what's going to tie it all together, is our light source and then our atmosphere. So you can see that this has got so much nice subtle atmosphere. So let's bring a little bit of that atmosphere. I'm just going to go ahead and merge this. So otherwise well, maybe not. Let's try doing an eraser tool a little bit more. But I'm going to, instead of saying erase 100% like this does, I'm going to change the opacity of that eraser to much less. Yep. So now when I erase it, oh, no, that's still doing. Sorry, guys. I really do have to learn a lot of how to use this. Flow, maybe it's flow. Let's try flow. There we go. So now I'm just slightly. But just by lightening that up a little bit, it's making it appear that there's a little more atmosphere back there. And again, just trying to get the top and the bottom of this scene to kind of harmonize and feel good together. I don't know about you guys, but I kind of like this. I kind of think maybe we can, if everybody kind of got what I was talking about there of doing editing, you can do a lot of this on your iPad. There's tons and tons of free apps. Pick one and go with it. Procreate is one that I hear about all the time. My daughter does amazing things on Procreate. It's free on your iPad, on your iPhone, and evidently it's amazing. Pick whichever ones. Become as savvy or not savvy as you're comfortable with. But I want you to be able to visualize. And again, even just your camera on your smartphone, just having the photo, just pushing the edit button allows for so much. I do so much of my editing in the very free thing that comes on my phone. Okay. Another one for you guys to think about is something called the Notanizer. I use that a lot. It's, I think, $1 or $2. And it just helps me break things into, let's see if I can do it here. Let me merge this, layer, merge. And a Notanizer will basically just posterize it. Let's just see if there's a posterize on here.
Michael, is that an app, Notanizer?
Yeah. And it basically does kind of like this, like it, but it in black and white. It just simplifies things. So I love seeing like this. Let's skip. I'm going to go back. I'm going to turn this into a black and white, image adjust, and I'm just going to do desaturate. Again, you can do that right on your phone. under when you look at your photos, there's going to be an edit button. You can turn them into black and white. Desaturate. So that looks pretty good already. Like that looks like a kind of an image. It's too dark. I'm going to go ahead and lighten it up. Image adjustment, brightness, contrast.
There's one that says black and white.
Oh yeah, look at that. What does that do? Oh wow, it popped this up so I could literally, I already made it black and white. So maybe I'll play with that. I don't want to waste your guys' time here. I just wanted to do image adjust, brightness contrast, image adjust, brightness contrast. So I'm just going to lighten it up because it's kind of all disappearing. So I'm just going to lighten it, and maybe I'll push the contrast a little bit. Ooh, look how moody this looks back here. Oh, it's so good. Maybe push the contrast. I like having some dark darks and some light lights. Too light. Let's go about there. Lovely. Doesn't that look like fun, Regini, already?
Yeah, it looks very nice.
Yeah, so cool. So, and again, even though I'm here, I could image crop, right? I don't need all of it. Maybe that's where it's at, maybe I zoom in a little bit.
Wow.
Let's go image. What was I going to do? The posterize.
Posterize is below that inward.
So sometimes just by simplifying it like this really helps me to kind of see where the lights and the darks break down. And that's kind of what the notanizer does. It does a better job than this. But there's times where just, there's so much information that in the beginning of the painting, I'll simply put it into the posterization or the notanizer. And it just helps me to simplify it, because now I look at this and I go, oh, okay, I could do this painting in 3 simple values: light, a little bit darker, a little bit darker than that. Oh, I guess it'd be 5 values, this, and then the darks, right? I could even simplify that another step. Oh, so that would be a notan. That's just black and white. That's 2 values. Let's do it to 3 values. There's 3 values, which is oftentimes how I like to start my paintings. In fact, let's go ahead and jump up to the easel, and I'm going to show you how I would use a notanizer. Are you guys okay if I do this as my reference for today?
Yeah.
This little silly design. All right, great. Stop share. Hello, everybody. And now we're going to shift to our other camera view. There we go. All right, all set up, ready to go. I'm going to grab a drink of water while I'm switching over. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 4 different versions of this very quickly. And I'm going to show you how I do value design. And this is a good opportunity if we were to jump back and forth, even with just this notanizer. I wish I could show. So when you see the notanizer version of it, what do you see that's a little bit annoying right now is 2 equal bumps. Bump, bump, right? So I'm always looking for opportunities of how can I make this better or more interesting, right? And 2 replicated bumps, lumps, clumps, whatever you want to call them, all sound bad, are not that great. When we start to bring it in, we can see they do have differentiation. One's a little taller, but I do think by simply looking at this very simplistic version of it, I can see, I've got 2 repeating forms that aren't that interesting. So right away, I'm going to go, okay, I've got some opportunity to be a little creative and make something a little different. So this is going to be a good opportunity. And let me know if you can hear me. I'm walking away from my microphone a little bit when I'm at the easel, but it usually works really well. I was going to do this, this stage of it Oops, I need to do stop share, sorry. Stop share, and I'm gonna do spotlight for everyone. There we go. Am I nice and big on there for you guys?
Yes.
Yay. It's all about me, folks. All right. So I was gonna do these little squares with acrylic paint. I even laid it out somewhere. So I'm a big, huge fan of these little stay wet palettes for my acrylics. I've been painting a lot more with acrylics. I laid out some kind of earthy colors, black and white, soaked there's a sponge underneath there, and we'll talk about that. I need to learn how many of you are acrylic painters, and how many of you are interested in painting with acrylics. But I was gonna do this with acrylics. Well, let's just go ahead and do one. Let's do maybe the no-tan with acrylics. So what I'm doing here with the no-tan is I am simply looking for flow and big shapes. So I know that I want my horizon line at approximately 30% down. I've got my creek kind of coming in somewhere about there. My other side coming in somewhere about there. And it comes up to about here. And I've got my two stupid lumps. So when I'm doing acrylic paintings, a lot of times they start with this. This is one of the things that I so very much love with acrylics, is that you can layer in so very quickly because they dry so darn quickly. So what I used to hate about acrylics is now one of my favorite things about acrylics. But what I don't want them is drying on the palette. So that's why having a wet sponge underneath with soaked water or soaked paper will keep them wet for, well, these have been wet for days now, as long as I put the lid back on.
You're not left-handed, are you?
I am right-handed. Am I showing up as a lefty?
Yep.
Yes,
Oh.
turned, I guess.
It looks reversed.
Okay,
flipped.
good.
I thought you had switched sides on the trees.
It's funny because it's showing up the right way for me on my screen.
Huh.
Let's see. I need to bring up this software here and. Okay, that's going to be weird because now I see it in reverse.
There you go.
Wonder how I can change it so I see what you guys see. Anyways, all right.
Could I ask what kind of paper you're using?
I believe this is Arch's oil paper.
Thank you.
Otherwise, I just will gesso some paper if I want to do, you just any kind of any kind of like a multi-use paper that's thick enough will work. How's that new camera, folks? That looks all right, huh?
It looks
Yeah.
That looks good.
So anyways, that would be basically the no-tan version of this painting almost. It's pretty basic. It's just black and it's white. And what this helps me to do is to see the flow and the movement and the big shapes. So then what I would do is with acrylics, what's so great about this is I can quickly come back over and start to add some more values. So I'm just going to take my black and my white and mix them up. There's some other colors on this palette, so you're going to see some kind of brownie colors. I apologize for that. but it doesn't matter. So all we're really worrying about at this point, you guys, is the structure. So I've kind of got some lighter areas towards the top where the light's kind of infecting the tree, or affecting, I should say, probably. We've got these nice areas back here that are falling back into space. There are also some trees. Break those up a little bit. And then I've got the tops of my grasses, which are also a little bit lighter of a value than this dark. And so I kind of got to go, okay, where's the base of these trees? One's kind of about here, other one's a little higher, and then
Wow.
so let's remember that we've got these lumpy bump trees. So I can simply come in and start maybe giving some sky holes. I could reshape them. I could make one of them bigger. Maybe I can even take it off the scene a little bit so that maybe some of its reflections coming down into here. This one also gets a reflection. Got the reflection underneath here. I can darken my sky a little bit, maybe.
Michael, I have a question. Is this an underpainting you would be doing in acrylic, or would you be doing this in oil?
I do both ways. I have been more and more doing underpaintings in acrylic, which is pretty new to me. But I sure like the speed, and I like the movability. I like the ability just to go, you know what, oops, I need this lighter, not, maybe the horizon line needs to be quite a bit lighter than that. And I can just
So if you wanted to do it in oil for an underpainting, you just have to wait then for it all to dry before you can move on to your next steps.
I mean, like when I'm plein air painting, I'll just paint right over it with, I just paint from thin to thick. So I keep my underpainting very thin. And that way I can just build up with thicker paint as I go over it. So.
Oh, I think I was just jumping ahead mentally to if you were going to use glazes or something.
Yeah, not probably with this. This is more like, again, like, okay, I figured out my design by looking at it on Photoshop, but maybe now I'm just kind of refining things, figuring out what can I do to make it maybe even more interesting. So this could be a quick little study, just to kind of, or let's say, you know what, I like that. We clean off my brush. But what if I wanted to make, let's lower the horizon mentally. Let's just see, what if it was more about the sky, or I have another idea. So let's lower the horizon quite a bit. Let's bring in our creek. It's going to not have all of it, but it'll have some of it. So let's, I've contaminated my black there, so it's hard to find really dark darks. There, come back here. And let's say, you know what, maybe might be interesting is, what if one of the trees was tall?
Mhm.
So that's what's so nice about these little sketches, is I can just kind of work out some ideas. Or you know what? It's so unequally weighted. What if we put something to counterbalance it over here? And then I can come back in with my values again. Right, I do still want some trees back there in the distance. Right, I want some lights on my grasses. This is just a fun, quick way to really guiltlessly work out some what ifs. What if, what if, what if? I mean, that is so much of what art is there's no right, there's no wrong. They're all just what ifs.
So you're using 3 values really when you do these.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep. And I could say, you know, maybe there's this big, if I'm going to have that big of a sky, I should probably have something. So, you know, maybe it is just kind of a. They're sloppy, they're messy, but they're helping me to work out some ideas. I'm gonna need to put out some more black paint here in just a little bit. What if I do really high horizon and it just becomes about that creek? I'm gonna start getting more color in here because I've run out of black. All right, give me 1 second. I'm gonna squeeze out black. I'm being silly, being lazy. Promise that's the paint. I just, with acrylics, you can just attack. You can just, you know, because here in just a second, it's going to be dry enough that I can quite literally bring light paint over the top. Like white out. Just looking for movement, just looking for action, just looking for form and structure, and just, again, what if, what if, what if? If I'm doing all these what ifs in just a couple minutes, so that when I finally decide on which one I like more, I'm not spending time fixing. I'm going to spend my time painting. Let's move these trees a little further back into space, lighten them up. Let's lighten the tops of those grasses. I was just 5 minutes more patient, it wouldn't be mixing, it would just be going right on top. That's what's so nice about the acrylics. If you're painting with acrylics outdoors, it dries almost immediately. I oftentimes keep a little mister bottle with me. That's a great way to kind of keep them damp where I want to. If I want to not have these, you know, very brushy marks, I want to soften edges and things. It's a great tool. You come back over with the darks even, give it a little more form. A lot of again, a lot of people will think, oh man, I can't believe you're wasting time. You know, it feels like a waste of time. Let's just get to the painting. But I'm asking and answering so many questions that are going to come up inevitably during the painting process that I just feel better having at least tried to figure some of the answers out a little bit going in, so that I'm just that much more secure when I get to the painting process. Just feels that much more fun. All right, one last one. I need to find some blue tape. 1 second. What if I had only a square format, only a 12 by 12 or a 10 by 10? Do a square format. What if I took both trees off the top? And what if I made one big and then the other one a little skinnier, maybe? Little Abbott and Costello tree action here. What if the creek doesn't even goes all the way off the bottom? What if there was very little sky and in fact there was a mountain or a big hill back there? designing is the most important thing you're going to do in your painting. And most of the designing is done in values, our lights and our darks. So doing these very simplistic, only 2, 3, 4 values, up to 5 maybe, really helps us to figure out our story. Our design, our structure, where those colors are going to get to dress up, right? I'm still just figuring out, again, the foundation of my home so that I can come in and pick my curtains and my wall color and my, furnishings, all the fun part, all the part that's going to get you the compliments. But without a strong structural underpinning that's thought out or at least experimented with, you can get yourself in so much trouble. All those paintings that I told you where I just rushed into them were all because I didn't spend a little bit of time just testing to see if my value structure and my design worked. I have not made any color choices at all, but no matter what my color choices, if I get my structure and my design in place, the color choices will read better, feel better. Oops. There's my dark gray. So anyways, there they are. Just the quick little studies that really give me kind of a number of choices. Do I want a low horizon line? Do I want some clouds, possibly higher horizon line with one tree going off? Do I want it maybe to go horizontally or vertically with the horizon line up high? Maybe the square format is the good choice. And I could just do these infinitely, right? I could think of all the different iterations that this scene could benefit from. All right, what do you guys think about that? Because that's kind of going to be some of your homework this week. Is coming up with a design and doing value studies to kind of come up with different iterations for it.
Sounds great.
Very cool. All
What
right.
size brush are you using, Michael?
Oh, I don't even know.
Okay.
That was just a almost throwaway brush.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't even say. Oh, maybe over here. I would guess that's a 6.
Okay. Just curious.
Old beat up brush. I use 6 and 8s mostly. So now that is enough of the structure side. All right. I think that was a lot of structure for one day. So now I say we play and we learn about Indian yellow.
Yes.
I love
All right. I'm going to change this back from not being a posterized image and not being a black and white image. Even though I really like it black and white, maybe I'll leave it black and white. Let me put some of these brushes and stuff in water. Let's take another 5-minute break, and we're going to go just a tiny bit long. Let me get these into water so I don't have a bunch of gunked up brushes. And I'm just going to do a very quick spontaneity, structure and spontaneity. That's the name of today. So spontaneity, I'm just going to attack Leslie. We're going to have fun. All right. When I'm working with acrylic paints and then transferring over to oil paints, make sure you get all of your acrylics put away. You do not want to mix the two wet into wet. It will make a horrible, weird, gunky mess. So I'm just making sure all my acrylics get put all the way back in the closet.
So you just like a lot of times you just make the no towns with acrylic and then change to oil?
Yeah, or I can do them with oils too. And this paper would have been better for oils, but I just thought since I know some of us are acrylic painters, I should, include us. And yeah, so I don't know. A lot of times I just do them with pencil or pen or watercolors or gouache or whatever it takes. Sometimes it's just cut out pieces of paper looking at the forms. So it could be whatever it needs to be.
Michael, this is Sherry. I'm nervous as far as doing these studies. Are you wanting us to choose a photo ourselves? Or are you going to provide a photo, or what's that going to be?
I can provide. I can even provide the one we just did. If you'd like to do a paint along, I'll save it and post it to our Padlet. You are welcome to do always whatever you want. Always, always, always. But I do know that a lot of students, when they're doing it the first time, it's kind of nice to do a paint along, so that you can literally just kind of refer back. So whatever you want, whatever is most comfortable. I don't want you to be nervous.
No, I appreciate the paint along for the first one, because then I'd spend the whole looking for a picture,
Yeah, and that's why I included a bunch, and I will throw in a couple more real simple ones actually. Yeah, I've got a couple that I really suggest for the first couple times. In fact, remind me at the end of class, and I will show you a couple images that I suggest.
Michael, I have a question.
Of course.
Yeah, when you finish your oil painting, do you use only Gamsol as a solvent, or you use any linseed oil or any other medium?
Primarily, I just use straight paint with just barely a touch of Gamsol. That's what I'll do for this next one. But I do have a lot of mediums. I've been experimenting with this liquid oleo paste just because it dries a lot more matte. A lot of the mediums that I'll use, I've got lots. A lot of them make them very shiny, and I don't always love that. So I'm always experimenting, but for the most part, paints are so good that you don't really need. And I'm using a new Indian yellow today. I'm hoping that it does what the other one does. We'll see.
Is it gambling or a different brand when you mean you?
It's, you know what? I'm just gonna take that off and use the one I'm used to. I don't need that. Don't need to experiment with everything in front of you guys here.
Oh, what brand is that, Michael, that you didn't like?
I don't know. It's MaimeriPuro.
Oh my goodness.
Miracle.
It's Italian, yeah. I was given a bunch of paints to experiment with, and I haven't used them yet. So I'm going to use Gamblins. But this is a fast matte, which is a little different, but will work well. But oh man, is it hard. All right, I'm squeezing it out onto my palette here in front so that I can soften it up just a bit. Yeah, so otherwise it's not going to move.
What are the paints that you have up there? Are those the paints you want us to use?
You can use whatever you would like, really, at this point. These are just some weird colors. I'll describe what they are. I just kind of grabbed what was still good on my palette that hadn't been touched yesterday when I was painting. So I've got titanium white, I've got Indian yellow, I've got quinacridone red, I've got transparent earth red, I've got burnt umber. And I don't normally have both of those on the same palette. It's usually one or the other. I've got ultramarine blue, and then over here is a color I almost never use, but is sure a great color, is sap green. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my brush, put a little bit of Gamsol on it, and I'm going to grab some of this Indian yellow. And a lot of you guys who've been in my classes before have seen this is just my favorite way of just playing. I just love, so I'm just scribbling some Indian yellow on there, very thin. We tighten that up a little bit there. I'm going to grab a paper towel. I'm just going to lightly rub that around. So there, I've got a toned canvas. This is all oils now. All right, I've got this little bit of Indian yellow here. I'm going to grab my palette knife. I'm going to mix transparent earth red. And this is there's no science to what I'm doing right now, you guys. I'm just mixing some colors together. So that first brown I put on there is very, very transparent. Now I'm adding some burnt umber, which is very opaque. I'm going to grab a little bit of my quinacridone red, which is very transparent. I'm going to grab a little bit of phthalo or ultramarine blue, which is semi-transparent. And why not? Because it's there. Let's just see what happens. Grab a little bit of green. So it's going to make basically a big dark mess. And in fact, it did. So I just made dark, basically, is all I did here. Combination of opaque and transparent colors. This is just me having fun. This is me relaxing at the end of the day. This is me using leftover paint. This is me just blowing off steam before I go down and hang out with the family. This is me just experimenting with values and structure. There's just, I love spontaneity and I love structure. And oftentimes just for my mental well-being, I bounce back and forth between them. I like to introduce spontaneity into my paintings, kind of that Bob Ross quote, happy accidents, right? I like to introduce spontaneity just because it's what's the worst that can happen, right? All we are is grown-up kids finger painting still. So I'm going to do that same scene, but very loose, very quick, very gestural.
Mm-hmm.
I love the way some of the different colors peek through.
You really do, yeah. That's kind of one of the reasons I do like introducing opaque and transparent colors. So fun. So fun. Like it literally just fills me with delight just to scribble paint. Always has, probably always will. But the odds of this painting working out are far lower. And I know that. I know that I'm just releasing pressure. I'm just playing. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and grab a dry big brush. One that's not sopping wet with paint. Grabbing a couple, in fact. Just kind of grabbing random brushes out of my drawer here. I just quickly grabbed, a lot of them are just shop brushes. I mean, these are just hardware store brushes. I'm just gonna quickly I know that that Indian yellow that I put in first, because it's so transparent, it works as kind of a stain. So it is soaking into that first little permeable layer of the gesso that's on there faster than the other colors that are coming on top of it. So I do know that. I also know that when I come back in and start wiping away, that some of these opaque colors that are mixed in, like the burnt umber and the ultramarine, are going to come up the easiest. For whatever reason, opaque colors, as a general rule, kind of come up the easiest. You also notice I haven't added any white. I'm going to save that. I'm going to paint kind of from dark to light. Right now, it's just kind of tonalism on steroids. It looks like a tonalist painting that was discovered in an old church where they'd been burning incense day in and day out for years and years.
I love it.
Me too.
It's great.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, this is for me, not for you. Unless you're having fun, then it's for you too.
I'm having fun watching. That's so much fun.
So much fun.
That's better than first grade.
A little bit.
Ring.
You don't want to use your fingers in oil painting very much. I promise you that.
No, they don't taste good.
Are you just lightly running the brush over there with no minimal paint on it or something?
Yeah. So it was a clean, dry brush, basically.
Clean, right, okay.
But again, there's nothing on it. And I'm just lightly brushing out. I'm kind of like just seeing what happens again, except for the hairs it drops off, get those off there. Yeah, I'm just, and then I'm looking at the screen and going, well, if I go horizontally with it, it makes a big glare, so I need to keep going vertically for you guys so you don't get that big glare on there. All right, some of you already kind of know what's coming, what's going to be some of my next steps here. And that is, I can take, again, just clean, dry brushes. I can take paper towels. I can take one of my most handy dandy tools, Q-tips. Got a jar of them right here. Love me some Q-tips. Let's start with paper towel because I'm going dark to light a little bit. And I'm also going thin to thick. All this paint is quite thin. I don't have a whole lot of paint on there. And I'm also thinking big to small. So I'm thinking my biggest shapes. So you can see if I thought of this as a no-tan, I've basically got light and dark, right? So it's almost a two-value painting. The trees, by luck, are a little bit darker. So it already looks like there's could be some bushes kind of coming in here. And like, it's kind of cool. So that's where I kind of go, okay, am I open to these changes or do I want to get back to the photo reference? Don't know. Let's see. So let's take our paper towel and I'm just going to start lifting some of that paint.
This is where the magic happens.
Yes.
I almost said the magic is in the wiping.
With Michael's fingers.
There you go.
It's like a big reveal.
To me too, and it's again, I always think of it as like the Polaroid camera. You know, it just slowly kind of reveals itself, and it's just utter joy. I mean, I don't even know why I worry about all the other stuff that I do, because this is what I like.
Michael, this is easier with oil, isn't it, than acrylic?
Can't do this with acrylic, no.
Right, I say, because I'm an acrylic painter, so this doesn't make sense.
So what you would do is just paint dark into light and light into dark. You just let it dry that little bit. So I will be showing examples of that, don't worry, as this class progresses. But yeah, this wiping away will work if you have the open acrylics, or you put a medium in there that keeps them wet longer. But I don't have those things. I don't paint with acrylics so much, and I only usually do mostly underpainting with acrylics. But I sure am more and more and more falling in love with acrylics. And again, it used to be, acrylics used to kind of drive me batty because of their quick drying, but now I'm really finding that to be, you know, its advantage. Instead of fighting it, I embrace it. And the big thing was it just drying too fast on the palette. So once I figured out how to slow that down, then now acrylics are so much more enjoyable. Let's figure out a little bit of tops of some of these grasses. Just using that paper towel very loosely, just it's all about pressure. You can revisit an area to pull off more paint if you need to. It does take some experimentation and play. I always feel bad for those students who've been with me and watched me do this a number of times that don't enjoy this, but I do like sharing it. Clean the brush off so I can scrub back into that again. Not scrub, but just kind of lightly wipe into that again, just so it doesn't have those weird marks so much.
Wonderful.
So now I'm just cleaning this brush, and I'm going to actually use the brush to kind of wipe away a little bit. It's a little more control. Whatever tools you want. I mean, literally, I could put on my gloves and use my fingers. A lot of times I will use my finger in the paper towel to kind of really get in there. Again, I talked about the Q-tips and stuff. And it's just taking, you know, just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And again, I'm just doing this big horizontal brush stroke so that it shows up for you guys. Otherwise, you get that odd glare. I'm still trying to keep it within about 2 to 3 values. This paint is still quite thin, so I can come back and add color and everything else if I want to keep painting, or I could set it aside and it will be dry by tomorrow because it's so thin. Grab a new paper towel. I'm gonna dip the corner of it in some Gamsol, a little bit of paint thinner. If you were doing this with acrylics, you could, use a little bit of medium or a little bit of water and do the same thing.
Do you use this process sometimes with your illuminated tones?
This is the process for the illuminated tones. Yep. Yeah, that's why I finally just with the help of you guys gave it a name, because you guys could tell I was having fun and I was just not treating it very seriously. So by giving it a name, I can now like take it to that next level. And I've sold every one of them I've done. It's amazing that I've put out to market so far. So it's kind of neat that people are responding to them.
What was the green on your palette?
Sap green. Yeah, sap green. I hardly ever use it, but it is a nice color. And it would look great over the top of this. I need to clean spots on my paper towel. Let's wipe it down again so we can not have all that glare. Good. Hit the sky one more time with our paint thinner. So just another clean towel.
If you end up working on this before our next class more, could you might record it?
Sure, I can just save it. I'll set it aside. I'll just do another one because I'm having so much fun. I'm glad you're liking it, enjoying it. So yeah, if I was doing this with acrylics, what I often will do is paint. Well, it's hard with acrylics. What I do is a black and white, and then I would go over and glaze it to get the glow versus getting the glow to come from behind. I just haven't really found a better way. But I can show you guys that here in another class, how I would do something somewhat similar with acrylics, or we can go check on our little thumbnails and see if any of those are dry enough to glaze into already. So I feel like some of I could probably lower, or let's just get rid of this creek a little bit. That white line feels a little bit perspectively wrong. So that's the other thing I really like about this is nothing's dear. Everything's quite quick. I can come in. Let's just get some darks in there too. So I got my lights. Now let's just get some darks down into the bottom here. Just mix a little blue, maybe some of that green. with some of that burnt umber, that makes it really just a gorgeous dark. All right, I'd like to hear a little bit from you guys. You're too quiet and I'm having too much fun. So I kind of want to know if this is something that's interesting to some of those newer students who have maybe not seen something.
Yeah, I have
Yes.
question.
Yes, very interesting.
Yes, indeed.
Very nice.
It's also interesting to the old students. Speaking for myself.
There you go.
I
Look at
I
that.
agree.
Michael, could you use oil instead of Gamsol?
It will become so slippery. I would almost just use no paint. I mean, no thinner. I don't know if you
Okay.
can try it, please try it. But I'm afraid that with that paint, with the oil, it will just be slippery on top of slippery and shiny. Yeah, please try it. Maybe
Okay.
just a little small one or something. I would love to
Yeah.
hear back from.
Are you saying to not use any oil, or any linseed oil or any oil or no?
I
no,
wouldn't on this phase. I can build up on top of it, but you also want to keep that thin to thick. So, you know, it gets harder to add paint on top when it's really slippery and slimy from the paint thinner or from the oil. So I would kind of save that for my next, you know, layer where I'm coming in and adding color on top or whatever else you want to add.
So initially you were using some thinner, right? Initially you're using,
Yeah, a little bit, not very much. Otherwise, again, it becomes very, very slippery.
so just initially, and then you were just going with just paint and no Gamsol or oil?
No oil. I have not
No
added.
oil.
The only
No.
thing I've used so far is some oil paint and some Gamsol.
At the very beginning of some Gamsol and then less.
Yeah, but you saw that I wiped it right back off. I used it just to spread that yellow around there pretty lightly. And then I took my paper towel and, you know, here's the yellow. I wiped almost all of that off so that it really, I just used the Gamsol to help the paint move.
At the very beginning only?
Yeah, yeah. Otherwise, again, it just is so slippery.
You did use a little bit when you were adding some of the, or wiping away to bring out some of the highlights, right?
Yes, you're right. Yeah, to get in there, like what I wanted to get back to the light of the canvas. Yes, I did add a little bit, but I don't want it dripping down or anything. So it's just a little bit on there. And I'm always surprised how little paint thinner you need to get your paint softened up or to get it to move. You know, I when I'm teaching in person, let me move the camera here. So I've got my thing of paint thinner right there. And when I'm painting in person with students, I'm always amazed how many people just take their paint, their brush, and just dip it in there and then dip it into their paint, and it's just dripping wet. When I go to dip my paintbrush into the paint thinner, I will usually just barely dip a corner.
Oh,
Barely. So I'm just getting a drop or two. It does not take much paint, and if you use too much paint thinner, what you're doing is also destroying the oil. That's what paint thinner is, right? It's just thinning the oil out. And the oil is the glue that holds the paint to the surface.
Michael,
Yep.
can we do this with water mixable oil?
Yes.
What?
Water mixable oil paints.
Yeah, I have not had a whole lot of luck, but I've only tried it once.
Oh, okay.
But yes, I would probably have a slightly slipperier panel surface or something. The other thing is this is wood. Gesso on it. If you do it on a heavily textured canvas, it's very difficult because that paint gets into all those little canvas crevices. So I actually prefer to paint on wood that I gesso 3-4 times. Sometimes I sand it, sometimes I don't. Yeah. Good questions, good questions. And you can actually do this for those quick little 4 sketches that we did earlier too. In fact, a lot of times when I am out plein air painting, this is how I start my painting. Because it's, how long did that take me? 20 minutes?
About.
Yeah.
Yeah, and And so a lot of times out plein air painting, I can do that, and I'm into it for my structure, I'm into it for my values, I'm into it for my design, and I've got a toned painting underneath. And when outdoors, this will dry a lot faster. What I might do is make sure I'm using like a fast drying paint, like a matte, what is it called, a fast matte or a quick dry paint. But that's why I also kind of like to do my underpaintings with acrylics. I'm looking around to see if I have any acrylic underpaintings. Yeah, here's one. So this was done with acrylics, and then I glazed over the top of it with some transparent reds and golds.
That's gorgeous.
Very nice.
Yeah. So let's.
Michael, you do a lot of really big paintings, though. You don't do those on wood, do you? Big monster paintings?
Up to about 36 by 48, I'll do on wood.
Oh, okay.
But like the big ones I'm doing now that are commissions, because they're for people on the East Coast, the shipping would have been prohibitive. So we did them on canvas. All right, so back to my acrylics. I don't guarantee this is going to work because I don't know if they're that dry. But I'm just going to grab a little bit of medium. So I'm using airbrush medium. And looking for some transparent acrylic paint. It's all in a big box. So give me 1 second while I look. All right, here is some Indian yellow, or they call it India yellow, in acrylic. So I'm just going to squeeze that out. I guess I could put it up here. So that's acrylic. I just got to be very careful that these two never meet.
Is this mainly, if I have to go, is this mainly for acrylic painters, what you're talking about right now? If I have to.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And then I've got a big jar of airbrush medium, which I really like because it basically acts like water, but it makes the paint very, very strong because the airbrush medium acts just like glue, but very watery glue. So it's kind of the reverse of what I just did, where I was removing everything to make it yellow. And in this case, now we are putting the yellow glaze over the top. So that's how the difference when I do something similar with acrylics. Grab that little tin of, or little box of acrylic. I got a little bit of, here's that thing again. Just grab a little bit of some reddish color, reddish brown. A little more of the airbrush medium. And let's just warm up some areas a little bit. See if I mix a little bit of black with this Indian yellow, if it turns it into any sort of a green. I don't know if it will. Nope. But anyways, that's a very horrible version of how you could kind of do something similar with acrylics and still get kind of that glowy kind of feel. You just use it almost in reverse. I'm going to do, go back to, I'm going to put these acrylics away and go back to the top one, and then I'm going to let you guys go. But let's just pretend, hide this acrylic brush for myself. Let's just pretend, do I have a brush? Nope. I'm just going to go back to this Indian yellow, which is the oil, add a little bit of Gamsol to it, maybe a touch of red, and let's just do this one. So this is oil over the top of acrylics. truly not too dissimilar. Right? Top to
Right.
bottom.
Right.
But with the oils, I have a little more time. This one's already dry pretty much. If I try to wipe away, with the oils, I have a little more time. Fun. Let's do it. Making sure I'm not holding my acrylic brush. Am I? Where did I put that acrylic brush? So that's what's so scary, going back and forth. Thanks.
Acrylic paints don't smell, but the oil paints will. So I always sniff my brush.
There you go. I'm just gonna be extra cautious and just grab a new brush. Let's flip this one more time. And let's do a nocturne.
Oh, my favorite. Wow. Beautiful.
Wow.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, it's fun to do the acrylic underpaintings and then just play. And that's the neat thing about doing these little thumbnail study things too, is now I've just got this fun little thing to experiment with color on.
Yeah.
Right? I was just gonna throw them away, so why not?
Sell them for $50.
There you go. All right, let's do, I don't know, red. I don't know what time of day red is. Or purple, or whatever color my dirty brush is wanting to make.
I think I like that color too.
There you go.
Wow.
Just having fun. So, I do spend a lot of my day designing, doing sketches, planning. I do try to reward myself with play and remember that art is play, a large part of it. And that we have to keep going back and forth from our analytical to our joyful side. And just have these little paintings that are just so fun to experiment with, and that we don't care about them too much. We don't want everything to be super dear. We want to be open and able to play and experiment, be bold, be willing to fall desperately on our face. But that's how we learn. We will learn so much faster if we're just willing to go for it and try new things. All right, only 15 minutes long. That's pretty good for me. Woo!
I think it's wonderful, Michael.
Yeah, it is very good.
All right, well, pop back over here. What one do I want? This guy, I think. Yep, there I am. All right. Well, I will share a couple images onto Padlet at the top of the reference photos of
Okay.
pictures that I think would be nice and on the easier side to play and experiment with. Feel free to change anything, everything. Feel free to do your own paintings. What I want you to do is think about editing and design and giving me a couple sketches, however you do it. If it's in pencil, if it's in charcoal, if it's in pen, if it's in paint. I just want you to think about trying different, square format, horizontal format, vertical format, zooming in, zooming out, high horizon, low horizon, whatever it is. I just want you to begin to go, oh, there's a lot of options. I don't just look at a photo and copy photo. That is not our job anymore. You guys are artists, all of you, every one of you. And by being an artist, our number one thing we're going to do is what if. Ask ourselves, what if? What if this? What if that? What about this? And that will open up all of these different opportunities and options. Okay. Awesome, you guys. Thank you so much. I really appreciate all your time, all of you being here. And if you have any feedback for me, good, bad, ugly, let me know. Send me an email. I'm always trying to be the best teacher I can, the best presenter I can. If I talk too fast, if I talk too slow, if you can't understand my accent, whatever it is.
You're good, Michael.
Thank
You're
you.
good.
Thank you. And I really look forward to seeing what creative things you guys come up with, and have fun. That's the main thing. There's no failing. Every painting in this class is an experiment. And you cannot fail an experiment. You can only learn.
That's it.
That's
Okay.
it.
Thank you, Michael, for
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank
Thank you.
Michael. See you
You
next
guys
time.
are awesome. Thank you. I
Wonderful.
appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Oh my gosh, there's so many of you still here. Normally I scare off at least half of you. But
Bye.
Thank you.
fantastic. Thank you. And Lisa, if you have a second, stay on with me. Lisa Fairbank. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I do.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys. It was wonderful. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.